Okay, so this is an explanation about how our annotated seating plan system works, some of the challenges involved in making something like this work, and just an explanation of the principles upon which it's based. So I've got a seating plan master document, which is on our staff site that staff can make a copy of and then they can use. This sheet has a number of tabs, and if I start from the right, we've got what's called the data tab, and this pulls in data for the entire school via one import range function, and that comes from a sheet which I manage and I update periodically with data. So there's only one point at which the data is ever updated, and all of the other seating plans that anybody creates automatically update when they open up that sheet from the one that I've updated. So normally you'd see all the classes here. What I've done is filtered this, and I've selected a chemistry class, and I've changed the UPN numbers, which would have been here, and the names, which would have been here. So I've just randomized these. So we now have David Cameron in my chemistry class and Bilbo Baggins and a bit of Gandalf. He probably can do some chemical magic. And if I just show you the sort of data that it's pulling off, ultimately from Sims, this one is an SEN code. So Gandalf clearly has some SEN information associated with them. And this one here, F and T, are false and true. This is PPG. So F means they're not, T means they are. So bod, bodies, it's true. Okay. In these columns over here, we've got some data. So this column here indicates the subject, which is quite a key thing. CH is chemistry. This is the actual class, 12C chemistry. And these are bits of data. So targets and the grades they're working at and attitude to learning. So these are things which are pulled off from Sims, and how that is actually tied together from multiple Sims reports I'll explain in part 2 of this. So we've got that data, and the end user doesn't really have to do anything with the data tab at all. So if we move to the left, there's an instruction tab, and the instruction tab tells the user what to do. And crucially, there's a video tutorial. So this just links to a video which everybody can watch, which resides in my drive. And essentially, it tells users all they have to do is put the class name, which in this case, if I go back to the data tab, is that one there. So I'm going to copy that name there and go to the student information page. So this will display information about the class that's selected. So all the end user does is in the one that's black, they put the code. So I'm going to paste that in there. And what will happen is that that class will materialize. And you remember that Gandalf had an SEN code, and BOD was pupil premium. It doesn't put anything in for the other ones. And it pulls off the data, and it also does some calculations based on the values that we've got here. And this is the attitude to learning coming across. Now, how that's generated is using a query function, which lives in here. So I just mouse over this, and it says if B1, this is B1 here, B1 contains the subject name. If B1 is blank, then let's not do anything at all. Okay, and then there's an if error, because if the user puts in the wrong class code or a class code that doesn't exist, what it says is you need an exact class name rather than coming up with a load of garbage. But if that class name doesn't result in an error, from this query, it says query classes. So in this data, that data is defined as a name called classes, a big table of data, and it says select column A. Column A has got the name in. J, B, H, G. So these are these columns of data here. So with a query function, you can choose the order in which the data appears, where E equals B1. So where the class name, which we're not actually pulling across, I'm not pulling across E here, is equal to 12C-CH1. So that will just return that class's information. Okay, so that's how it populates that. So all the end user has done at this point is put in the class name and their data's there. What they then do is create a seating plan based on that. And you can see that this sheet here is automatically populated with the students' names, Fred, Amy, Bob, and so on. And we've got a grid here which represents the seating plan or the room. There's quite a lot of grids, just allowing for a room that might have many tables. And if we want to put Fred on a table, all we do is click on the drop down here and select 2. And it'll go brown, so the color of the table. So I'll just put a few of these in here, and we'll just put them in number order. But I could put Barack next, number 10, and then I could put David Cameron next to Barack Obama, perhaps, and then I could have Porter next to 9, and so on. Okay, to create the plan. So far the end user has put in the class name and chosen where they're going to sit. Then you go to seating plan, and that's what you'll get. So it's got Fred, Amy, Barack, David, and Porter. Let's just pick off who it was. Gandalf. Let's have number 5 as well. Let's put number 5 going down this way. So we've got Gandalf here, and we can see that the fact that Gandalf has an SEN statement that appears on the annotated seating plan as the appropriate code. And you can see the target grade and the grade at present progress, which is what that stands for, is there. And that's it. So how does that all work? Going back to the class arrangement. Okay. This uses an array formula. Okay, so this is array formula, student information. Student information is this sheet here, and that array there is A14 to B18, and that will pull off the student number and the names up to number 15. And then this does the same, but up to number 30, and this does the same up to number 44. Not that we have any classes that big, but you might have some that are going up to 32, 33, or something like that. All this is a little bit of conditional formatting, and so when it has any number in it, it goes brown, okay, other than 0. And here, this is data validation, so you can choose the range of data that the end user can put in. So they can choose anything from this list, 0 to 40. So on the seating plan itself, each one of these grids is essentially the same, and it uses a lookup. So this looks up the name. So it uses an if statement, if class arrangement. Remember, class arrangement is here. A1 is blank, then it does nothing. Otherwise, it looks up in class arrangement student information in that little array there, AA, and it will return the value Fred in this case. But if there's nothing there, it won't do anything. And again, the coloration comes from conditional formatting. So if there's something there, it's going to go white. If there isn't something there, in this case, we've got it going blue. So it sort of highlights the places where you've got stuff. And these other cells do much the same thing. It just pulls off the data from class arrangement using a VLOOKUP. So each one of these cells has a formula in, but it's basically just lots of repetition of the same formula. So if you want to change something, if I wanted to put Fred somewhere else, I can just have nothing at all in there and put number 2 over there. And that's it. And I've changed my seating plan, and Fred is now over there. So that's how that part of it works.